Okie dokie. So I have got my number 10 edge stitch foot on, and I'm going to put my needle position to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just going to run my edge stitch foot along the edge of my lace, and I'm just going to top stitch that on. So I've got it on a top stitch length of about 3.15, and I don't need to back stitch it. I'm just going to top stitch this down. And lift it up and turn it around and top stitch down this side, and then that's anchored. So while I'm here, I will do this one as well, because I haven't stitched that one down, and then I don't have to worry about it later on. Foot up, needle up. Pretty lace. It's very, very hard to get coloured laces, and this is a lovely 100% cotton lace, so I'm quite happy about that. Leave that one aside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my thread. I'm going to take my needle out. I'm going to take my foot off, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to put on a twin needle. So, twin needles. I won't worry about that at the moment. Okay, so I want a nice wide twin needle. So when I top stitch, it's going to top stitch. Hang on, I'll show you like this. When it top stitches, it's going to top stitch through that braid, and it's going to stitch either side, so I don't have to top stitch both sides. So I'm just going to check that width. That's pretty darn good. I hope that's what I used on this one, because I've had a few needles. Yep. So this is a 4mm twin needle I'm using. So pop that up. Now you have got 2 thread stands on your machine. 2 thread stands. And you should have 2 felts. One moment. You should have another felt on your machine or in your little box of goodies, which is gone walkabout. And I forgot to find it. Oh, you know, I know where they sell them at Bernina. I'd have to get myself another one. Probably lent it to somebody knowing me. And that other felt in my little box of tricks. No, okay. I'll just check my drawer. Make sure I haven't got my felts in here anywhere. Oh, you see, you think you're organised and you're just not. Oh, I just blame the mechanic that I took it to. He's probably stolen it. So probably the most important thing is to have the felt up there if I haven't got 2 of them at the moment, because I have wound some thread off here onto a bobbin because I want a twin needle. I don't want to go buying 2 reels of thread. So I'd rather have the felt here than on here, because then this won't get all caught up. So when I'm doing 2 reels of thread, I'm going to thread 1 through there. I'm going to thread 1 through here and the other one through here. Now what I do, my foot's up and my needle tensions are open. So at the front I've got a little needle, little thread tension, and I'm going to, maybe I should do one at a time. And I'm going to thread 1 on one side and 1 on the other side of my needle, my thread tension, and then bring them down. I've got them separated here. Bring them down, and my right one is going to be my bobbin. See, I'm pulling it, and my left one is going to be my other reel of thread. So I know that I've kept them separate. I was showing the ladies in one of my classes that I had a drilling needle, and the drilling needle is 3 needles, and we did some really cool stitching in one of our classes. By the way, you can't use your needle threader, obviously, because you're not using a single needle. So you need to just thread your needles by eye. Luckily, my eyes aren't too tired today. Now, I'm going to clear my machine, and I'm going to change my foot to an open toe foot, I think, a number 20. So I'm going to tell my machine that I've got a 20 foot on because I want to see my braid. So I'm going to come into my little box of goodies here and I'm going to look for my number 20 foot, which should be in here. Yep, not in that lot. There it is. Excellent. So my number 20 foot is what I'm going to use. The reason being why I want to use a number 20 foot, because see, I can see where I'm going and guide it down nice and evenly on my braid. So I'm just going to pop in my number 20 foot on, tell my machine I've got it. Now I don't just sew on here. What I do is I just do a sample. Here it is. Here's a bit with the tearaway on it. Just do a sample so that you make sure it's going, okay? So it's on 2.5 length. I'll probably lengthen it out a little bit, 2.75. Always turn it by hand when you're starting to make sure that nothing's going to go ka-clunk, and then lift it out and it's sewing perfectly. So now I'm going to go on to here. Let's get a bit of tearaway under that. Cool, to make sure everything's going to stitch nicely, and line your twin needles up, centering them on your braid. Perfect. And then you can see, oh, make sure your braid's glued down properly. And it wasn't. I'm just going to hold it with a pin. Look at that. Perfect. See what I had to do? I'll show you. I just went like this and I held that bit of braid till it started sewing. All right, because I hadn't glued it enough. Then, once I get started, I actually hold it just like this, and then sew nice. It's not very often you see me go slow, but you want to have the stitching nice and even. It's not stitching nice and even. You want it to stitch nice and even. I need to concentrate. Funny. Love that, nice and slow and even. Yeah, that worked. Actually, it's not bad, and I think when someone's leaning against my cushion, they're not going to notice. But there's my braid sewed on. Now, this is obviously straight sewing. Look what happens underneath. Can you see? What happens with your machine, it's so clever. The bobbin thread actually zigzags those two top pieces together to form the stitch. It's brilliant. So that's what a twin needle does. It's so clever, so clever. Then you can simply tear that away. You can leave the other bits in there. It's not going to hurt it. Isn't that brilliant? Just like that. Okay? Now I want to have a play and decide what I'm going to do on the rest of it. So I can leave this twin needle in, but this twin needle is going to be too wide for me to do much with, because I can only do a little bit of width with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some pin tucking and a smaller twin needle. And I've put the twin needles, here they are, in a safe place now. There is about 4 different pin tuck feet you can get. And I'm going to use the 32 pin tuck foot, and I need a needle that's going to fit with it. If you don't know and haven't labelled your needles, how do you know that they're going to work with a pin tuck foot? What you do is you lay them down, and if they sit in the grooves, you can use it. Okay, so this is a 2mm pin tuck foot, and I can fit that because it can fit in the grooves. Look at this one. Not going to fit. See how one of them's sitting up? Not going to fit. So if you're not sure of what twin needle you've got, or if it's going to fit in your foot, if it sits flush in the grooves, I can use it. Isn't that brilliant? So yeah, so I'm going to change to a 2mm twin needle. I can leave my threads there because I'm going to reuse them. I can take my 20 foot off, and I can tell my machine I'm going to use a 32 foot. Okay, so it's a pin tuck foot 32 and a 2mm twin needle. Okay, You're all going to see this at class anyway, but this just reiterates how you do your twin needling. And you can go back and look at it if you forget, and you can use it for garment sewing or anything. So the first thing with pin tucking, on the older machines you thread a cord. I'm going to use a black cord so you can see it. You thread a cord up under your foot through the hole in your sew plate and you leave your bobbin door open. But on these machines we have this little gadget called a Pintuck gadget. Oh, my screw's gone out of there. And this fits in here like this, and you screw this on. My screw's gone out of there. That's all right, I can still show you. That's interesting. You want to thread this cord through here. So you've got a little tube like this. Whatever cord fits through the tube you can use. Clever, eh? So that goes through there. Interesting that my screw's not there. Just one moment, I'm going to steal a screw from something else. I'll see if this screw will fit in there. So you don't get a screw this big, but this one will work. Have sewing rule will find the right screw. So somewhere in my sewing room there's bound to be something I can use. So they do come with a screw, and I will check before you purchase it. Interesting. So what's happened here is I have threaded my cord through this attachment and it's centered. Now I can now close my door and not have to worry about my bobbin sensor not working. So what I do with my cord is I thread the middle of it through my knee control so that it can just feed off itself, okay? So I'm now putting this back onto here and it can feed off my knee control. Now what this does, and I'm going to show you on here, and I won't put Tearaway on the back so you can see how it pulls up, is I'm going to lift. Do I want that tight? I've got to think about this. Okay, I've just got to think about this. Does this want to be too tight? One moment, please, while I just use my brain. Twin needle on there and then that on there. I want that underneath my work, don't I? So I want the cord underneath, the twin needle on top. So I'm going to lay, it's been a little while, I'm going to lay this like that, and I'm using this guide so I can sew straight. Now I've got it on my 32 foot on, but guess what I haven't done? I haven't told the machine I've got a twin needle on. So if you want to look in the mirror, I'm going to touch this button here. This is a picture of a needle. I'm going to look across here and I'm going to find the 2mm needle. And it's showing now a twin needle. Now what that means is it will not let me break my needle if I go and put a zigzag on. You watch. It says that's as wide as you can sew with that twin needle. Blinking clever. Another stitch. That's as wide as you can sew. With this foot and this needle, it will only sew that width. So I'm going to put it back to straight sewing, and I'm just going to stitch. And what's happening is the cord is feeding through underneath my twin needles and forming a pintuck. Isn't that clever? Oh, here's me saying I was going to sew that straight. Hilarious. So if I lift this up, look, see my cord coming through there? Very clever. What it's done is it's given me a raised piece. So now, I'll just pull my cord back so I don't waste all my cord. Now, if I want to do another row, and because I didn't sew it straight, it's perfect because I now can lie this over one of my grooves and I can just sew and it will be just as uneven as the first row. Perfect. Isn't that clever? Need control. Oops, got caught. There we are. So you can see how raised that is, and that's got black cord underneath it. It actually looks really cool. So now that I've done that, I can see that on this I would like to go the opposite way because look how neat that looks. So I might do some rows and pin tucking on those, which would look really, really, really nice. So yeah, pretty fun. So if I'm doing it on this one, I'd probably use white cord. I wouldn't use this cord because it would be too thick. So that's pin tucking and that's how you do it. So it's very, very easy. I'm going to take this off now because I want to show you how to do the twin needle with the patterns, and then you can see how simple it is. But that's a cool gadget. But yeah, when you buy it, make sure you've got a screw. So now I'm back to normal twin needling. I'm going to put my normal foot on. I'm not going to use an open toe foot. I'm going to use a... No, I will use this because I actually want to see my stitches. Now, I've now got my 20C foot on. Look what happens in here when I put a 20C foot on. Changing from the 32, changing to the 20C. Now watch what happens when I do a zigzag. I can go right out to 6.7 when I do a zigzag. Look at that. Because I've got the bigger foot on and my machine can sew 9mm. Let's just show you on here. It's better doing lots of samples to show you because it's much easier for you to see it. So now if I do that, oh, I'm not going to do that because it's way wide. But if I do that, I like that about 5.6. It's on 2.9 length and you have a look. Ooh, oh, now you see, now I've got another thought in my head. Now that I've done that and it looks really good. Standard zigzag. Look how cool that looks. So why don't we, well, let's just do it. Why don't we get a bit of tearaway and stitch straight down the middle here. Make sure your foot's nice and even and stitch some really nice big wide rows of zigzag through the middle of your plain colour. That's a bit cool. Oh, that's very smart, isn't it? See how fun twin needling is? But make sure you've got your tearaway on the back. Okay, so twin needling is a lot of fun. Now, to do the fancy stitches, all I did was I went and found some fancy stitches and thought, oh, I wonder what that would look like. I wonder what that would look like. The best thing about these machines is when you bring up a fancy stitch, it shows you straight away on the screen of the machine what that is going to look like. If you don't like it, just try another one. That looks fantastic. So you don't know what it's going to look like. However, on these machines, you don't have to test everything out. So I've put one up there that I quite like the look of, and I'm just going to stitch it. So you want to have a sample bit of fabric, a sample bit of your tearaway, and just try your stitches out and see if you love them. And play with your machines. You've got these incredible machines that can do wonderful stitching. I'm using standard sewing thread. Wind a bit on your bobbin and see if you like the stitches. Is that the one I did previously? I'm going to have a look now. Is that the one I did? No, it's different, but similar. So I'm going to do that on my next one. If you think it's too close, you can lengthen it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that stitch, but I'm going to do it on this one here. So I'm just going to steal my tearaway back, throw it under here, and I'm going to stitch that stitch because I really like it. But I don't want to stitch it really close, so I'm going to use my quilting guide. Which way am I going to go? This way? This way? My quilting guide in here. And I'm a screw loose, so I'm going to find a screw. You do not have to agree with that. I'm going to find a screw out of another foot. And I'm going to screw that onto here. And these are the screws that always fall out. And everybody on Facebook goes, oh, there's a screw falling out of my sewing machine, and they stress out. So it's only a screw to hold your quilting guides in, or your seam guides. And they do tend, oh come on, they do tend to, with vibration, fall out. And hold your mouth right to get them in. Here we go. So I've decided that I'm going to put that on. And I've got that on, and now I'm going to go this way. So I'm going to move this how far away I'd like that with my braid, and I'm going to push pattern begin. So pattern begin will take me back to the beginning of my pattern. All right, so I'm just going to stitch this. So there you go. Have a little bit of fun. When you see the next video, I'll show you how to join it all up together. But for now, I want you to play with your machines. Try out twin needling because it's absolutely awesome. And have some fun because there's nothing hard about it. It's about utilising your stitches on your machines. Have a go at pin tucking. And I will see you on the next video, and I'll show you how you join them all together. So have a lot of fun sewing, and we'll see you soon.